in action. We'll just throw that over there. My husband didn't flip the screen up for me on the other camera. I'm used to staring at it, but now I'm not going to. But welcome back to another YouTube video and audio episode of the Stop the Hey Girl podcast. Today we are talking about how to get all the things done, because that's what people say to me. Kayla, you're running 2 companies, all these things, and you're still making time to watch Vampire Diaries a lot. How are you doing it? Now, I will say first and foremost, I have an amazing team that supports me with a lot of things, but of course, there are a lot of things in my business that I can't outsource. Like this, you and me right now, we're chatting, we're hanging out. No one else can do that because it's not me. However, there are a lot of things that people can do. Little things, not little things. My team does big things, but things that don't require me to have to do them. Things like customer service emails, things like taking outlines and making them into some posts, things like creating some graphics. A lot of things that would take me a lot of time if I tried to do them myself, but I outsource them. Now, this is not an episode about outsourcing. I've done some episodes on the podcast about it in the past, including one with my friend Charlene, who is an OBM, if you want to scroll back a couple months and listen to that episode. Today, this episode is for my solopreneurs who are just not in a place right now where they can outsource things in their business. Whether you are just starting out, making a pivot, it doesn't really matter. There are just seasons in business where you're doing stuff yourself and you need to be smart about your schedule to get things done. Now, I know you probably heard an episode that I did with Chris Bello on the podcast a couple weeks ago, sharing his system for getting stuff done, which is awesome. And he gave so many gold nuggets. Definitely go listen to that episode on Apple Podcasts or Spotify if you have not. But I also kind of want to share some things of what's really worked for me, especially with running 2 businesses. And I know a lot of you are working your business while taking care of loved ones, working a 9 to 5, and still having a life. So the biggest thing that's important for me is I notate the time of day that I thrive doing specific things. So I love doing meetings in the morning, early afternoon. I love to be creative and create in the morning or early afternoon. And when I realized the times that I created my best work or came up with my best ideas, I went all in with it. So I pretty much start my workday at around 10. I noticed that if I tried to do things too early in the morning, they just weren't good. Probably because I was sleepy and I needed my coffee, but I noticed that I got my best ideas and I got the most done in the least amount of time if I got especially creative work like program outlines or worksheets or things that I have to create slide decks. Between 10 and 2 really is my sweet spot for that. As an example, tonight I'm finishing up things for a masterclass I'm doing tomorrow because I'm a little bit of a perfectionist with the information in these slide decks, and I was doing it in the evening. And something that probably would have taken me about an hour earlier in the day took me about 2 hours. So I was like, holy crap, Kayla, that's what inspired this video, because I'm like, we got to talk about this, because why make something take 2 hours when you can knock it out and do it really well in an hour or less? And so I recognize that. And sometimes there's days like today where you can't really help it, but I like to make my schedule based on when I thrive doing things. So for me, it's creative early in the day. Meetings early in the day. I like to have a little bit of a break with nothing planned in the afternoon, and a good chunk of the time that is used for a work break and lunch. A lot of the entrepreneurs and solopreneurs I speak to, they don't schedule in meals. And I think that that's really important, to give yourself a break, to make sure that you eat, because I know you've been there with me when you have a day jam-packed of schedules and then it hits you and you realize you haven't gone to the bathroom in a couple hours and you haven't eaten, and that's why you feel like garbage. So scheduling that is so important. So especially on a day when I know it's going to be busy, I will intentionally go in and block my calendar to give me time for meals. Here's another tip as well. I also schedule in my drive time going to and from the office. Number one, I want to know what time I'm leaving so I can let my family know. So if you're not going to an office that's yours, maybe it's your 9 to 5, schedule that in to make sure that no clients are booking calls or anything during that time, so it doesn't interrupt your commute commute time so you know what to expect. That's something else that's been huge for me with my schedule and being able to get more done in less time, is knowing what's happening when. Now, another piece that's really huge for me is I love coaching and teaching in the evenings. I pretty much record all of my YouTube videos in the evenings. And when I record things like this, I don't bring a script. I just riff with you. I keep it with what's coming to mind because that's most natural and what feels best to me. And I don't want to sound scripted and weird, but I feel like I can teach and I can be in the mode and I can just be who I really need to be on video in the evening. I feel I'm the best version of myself, the most authoritative, the most fun when I do coaching and teaching in the evenings. So I intentionally, with my programs, I book those calls in the evening most of the time. Now, I know that I have a lot of clients that are on the other side of the world, or at least in Europe. I have a lot of people in Europe. I love you. And so I do schedule some things for the daytime. And of course, I bring it just as well. But again, if I had to choose, and with most of my schedule, I do them in the evening, just because I know that that's when I'm really on my A game. And especially with coaching, right? Coaching and teaching are different, but with coaching, you're really actively listening so that you can ask the right questions that help your clients pull the answer out from within themselves. And when I'm coaching, I notice that I do a lot better with that in the evenings as well. Not too late though. Usually we try to be done by 8, but just to kind of keep that in mind. Paying attention to when you thrive doing things not only allows you to get more done in less time, but you feel better while doing it. And I honestly think that you create better work. Now, another thing that's really important for me for getting more done in less time is I look ahead in my schedule and look at what needs to be done and pre-schedule things that need to be created. So an example for this would be, let's say I'm making a slide deck for something. Rather than just put it on a to-do list for the day, I will schedule a time that I'm going to get it done. Because what happens is if we have a to-do list, right, of just all the things, we're going to sit down at our desk and go, what do I do first? I don't know. And then we'll waste about an hour scrolling Instagram or TikTok, fooling around, trying to decide what to do. So especially during busy seasons in my business, where getting this stuff done and deadlines are really depending on it, I will go in and say, doing this slide deck from 11 to 12, working on outline for this training, 12 to 12:30. And so I will be really intentional and I'll book that out ahead of time so that when I sit down, I know what I need to get done. That might seem overkill to some people. However, I've noticed I've been able to cross more things off my to-do list and do them well when I do it this way. So it's been very helpful. I also want to mention that I use my phone's calendar. I use iCal. Some people love Google Calendar. I'm not that girl. I love using iCal. I don't use a paper planner or anything. Most of my notes that I ever take are scribbled on Post-it notes, and that doesn't really serve me or anybody else that well. But when it's important, I get it into my calendar. And I also, again, will look in the calendar around when my clients have booked, and I'll look maybe a week or at least 3 days out and plan the rest of the week. So as an example, the day I'm recording this, it's a Tuesday. I've already gone in and set my tasks in my calendar through Friday. So for the most part, I do take Fridays off from almost all client calls and scheduled work. So if there's something I feel like doing on Friday, I'll do it. But sometimes I leave the day free to do nothing that has to do with work or business. As an example, this week is one of those weeks where I've got stuff to do. So I'll go in and schedule it. And that goes for my coaching business as well as my agency business. If I have things that I need to do for a client, I will go in on the specific day and mark the time that I'm getting it done for that client. Because if I look at a list of things that I have to do for all of these different people, I am going to be so frustrated not knowing what to tackle first. So in the morning, or not in the morning, late morning, early afternoon, when I am best at getting lists done and organizing and being creative, that's the time of day that I plan the rest of the week. Some people, right, they kind of write out their list the night before. I am not that girl, because when I'm tired and just exhausted and overwhelmed, I don't feel like I can make the best planning decisions. So I will always do that earlier in the day, and I don't do it on weekends. Some people are set the plan for the week on Sunday. Love you if you do that, but the biggest thing for me is I want to do and make the plan when I have the clearest state of mind and I have my CEO hat on. So that's something to think about. On the weekends, I don't have my CEO hat on. I have my mom hat on, or a lot of the time, I just have the Kayla hat on. The Kayla that doesn't want to think about business, that doesn't want to think about my to-do list. The Kayla that just wants to watch Vampire Diaries and scroll TikTok laughing at how hilarious everybody is. So that's another tip for you. Work on business stuff while you are working on your business. Don't take up personal time to plan for business, because what ends up happening, right, is we think of all the things that we could be doing. And so now time off from business becomes more business time that doesn't need to happen, right? Because you have a whole week to do it. I don't know if you're like me, but if I start thinking about business and plans and stuff on a Sunday, my entire day is shot because I have all these ideas I want to execute on. So I do my best. I'm not perfect, but I do my best to, on my days off or on my half days off or even in my hours off, I don't pull up business stuff. I plan for the business while I'm working on my business. Now, something that I will do that helps when I am working on my business, doing business stuff with my CEO hat on, is on weekends, if there's personal appointments or things that I want to do for myself during the week, I will put those in my calendar so that when clients go to book, they can't book, when I want to get a blowout, or if I just want to catch one of my TV shows live, whatever it happens to be. If I want to see a friend for dinner, I will schedule that stuff in ahead of time, because I don't want to have any awkward conversations if I forget to put in a doctor's appointment and I have to say, hey, can we reschedule? I forgot about the dentist. Of course, your clients are going to understand, but that's one of my best tips as well. And if you use a calendar system for clients to book, this is why I think using your phone's calendar is so much better, because you can sync them. So what's really cool is when I put a personal appointment in my calendar, it blocks off that time in my client booking calendar so they can't book during that time, which is awesome. So that way you can have great balance between time that you're just being you and not working on your business, and intentional time that you're working on your business. Another tip that's really important, and this has stuck with me for so long, I don't remember who said it, but when it comes to tasks, the amount of time you allow it to take, it will take. So if you say, I have 4 hours to cross off these two things, you will make it take 4 hours no matter what. So when you're putting in that time block of how long something will take, I want you to challenge yourself a little bit. Like, I kind of want it to be a little bit, not too much of a race against the clock. Because if you're giving yourself an hour to write one caption, I promise you, sister, you can write a killer caption in 10 minutes, guarantee it, right? When the pressure's on, you get it done. So if you're going to block off an hour, say you're going to crank out 4 to 5 captions, because an hour is a really, really long time. I mean, an hour is 3 20-minute blocks. So I love taking an hour and breaking it down into 3 20-minute blocks, and that could be enough for like 5 to 6 captions. So that's one of the biggest things. Be realistic about how long something will take you. So that way you might realize in your calendar that you got everything done you needed for work in 2 to 3 hours. And what's great about that is now you have a chunk of time that maybe you would normally have filled that you didn't need, that you can now devote to other business projects, serving your clients, or you could even take some time off, which is really cool, and you deserve it. So those are my best tips and best practices for how to make the most of getting more done in less time. Because again, you don't have to be a slave to your phone. You don't have to be a slave to your calendar. It's just about planning ahead and really making sure that you're doing the things in your work and in your business during the times and in the scenarios that you thrive best, because you're the business owner. You get to call the shots, right? If you don't want to coach in the morning, don't allow people to book coaching calls in the morning. If you want to be done with business at 6 o'clock, sister, don't get in your DMs after 6 o'clock. You call the shots, and you're going to have such an awesome year. If you love this episode, if there were nuggets in here that were helpful, please take a screenshot while you're listening, while you're watching, tag me on stories, tell me your biggest takeaway, and I would love to share your response on my stories. And also for future YouTube videos, please tell me what you want to see. And if you're not subscribed already, go to my YouTube, Kayla Ibanez. There's a few of them. You can tell which one's this one. And make sure you subscribe, turn the notification bell on so that you know when new videos go live. We do a new video every single Thursday. You're the bomb, and I will see you next week.